Hello and welcome to my theories and explanation video for Bokura. Before we begin, I included a story recap segment, so for anyone unfamiliar, you can take a look at that, or skip it if you've already played the game. If you have not yet played the game, I would recommend playing it first before watching the video. But that said, let's begin. In the words of the developer, are you and I really seeing the world the same way? Have you ever wondered if the world you see is the same as the world everyone else sees? Bokura is a game about two boys whose worlds are no longer the same as everyone else's. Two boys who run away from home encounter a dead deer. The sight of it causes them to faint, but when they wake up, the worlds they see are no longer the same. When you play, you'll find that what you and the other players see are not the same either. One of them sees a world of animals, while the other sees a world of machines. Will the boys be able to find out what has happened to them and return to the world they used to be in? I hope you'll overcome the differences in how you see the world and relive the friendship of your childhood through the story of these two boys. The game opens with one of the two main characters riding a train, recollecting their winter story and reflecting on their current life. Presently, they are an adult. Bokura is the story of two boys from troubled home lives of neglect. Green is from the more affluent family, yet neither parent pays much attention to him. Blue is from the poorer family, home to a single mother who swaps around boyfriends a lot and spends all of their money. Unhappy with their current lives, the boys set out on a journey to blow up the local mayor's statue, and then run away together. They travel into the woods, and upon finding a deer carcass, a sight they've never seen before, they become sick and fall unconscious. A monster comes by while they are unconscious, investigates them, then leaves. When they regain consciousness, each has a different visual perspective of the world. Blue sees the world as a robot dystopia, and Green sees it as a distorted picture book, or an animal world. The boys decide to venture onwards anyway, hoping things will go back to normal eventually. Throughout, there are hints that the world they see is different, but it is not immediately confirmed. The boys encounter a married couple searching for their lost child. They argue and split up. Then the boys go after them to try to get them back together. They successfully reunite them, but the couple pressures them to answer who they would choose in a divorce situation, mom or dad. After this uncomfortable encounter, the couple goes on ahead. Then the boys continue. They discuss the weirdness of seeing the world differently from one another. Then they decide to go home, but they encounter a hunter and his dog who try to chase after and kill them. The boys flee and try to find the couple from before. They encounter the dog that was chasing them, now dead and split apart. Blue thinks he can fix him and does. Then they leave. They happen upon the hunter's house. Blue finds an AI inside who tells him the truth, that it controls all of the animal robots of the hunter's family, how the hunter suffered a tragedy and has gone senile, and how the robot world Blue sees is the real world. Blue doesn't get all of this and exits. Outside, Green talks to a rabbit who warns him that it's the hunter's house Blue went into. Then the hunter arrives and kills the rabbit. Green hides just before the couple arrives. The hunter kills one of the couple, and the other runs away. Blue comes out, but is unable to fix the dead rabbit or person. They go after the hunter and dog and find him dead on the ground. Blue has the choice to fix him or not. Then they leave. They see a human boy and try to follow him. When they try to catch up, he is surprised that they are not scared of him. He was also following after the surviving parent. He takes them to shelter, and they have heart-to-heart conversations by a campfire, share their feelings, backgrounds, family life. Blue gives him his handkerchief when the boy gets sad. When they wake up, the boy is gone, so they try to find him. They eventually make it to the top of the mountain where the statue is. They unsuccessfully try to blow up the statue with fireworks, have a good laugh, then converse. They talk about their past, present, and future, and have some character development. Green is about to reveal a secret to Blue about how they might have the same dad and might be brothers, but they're interrupted by a scream. They investigate and it's the surviving parent who has just fainted at the sight of a monster, the one from the beginning when they fell unconscious. It lets out unintelligible, inhuman screams and scares them back. They try to escape, but only one of them can, so they have to decide who. But either way, the fleeing boy comes back to save the other, and they scare off the monster by throwing rocks at it. Though they make the monster sad, and it turns out to be Haru, the boy they met earlier. He says he was happy to be their friend for at least one day, then leaves. The parent wakes up confused and has Blue's handkerchief. The boys realize what was going on and then cry. We cut back to the train from the beginning of the story, where the recollection has ceased and a reflection of their current life continues. It's depressing, but heartfelt. He then makes a phone call to his parent to get in touch with the other friend so they can go back to the woods and find the boy Haru. They meet up as adults in the woods from that winter long ago. They travel the same path and shortly find the monster, Haru. They say his name and approach him. He envelops them and changes into a human, and they are in a hugging embrace. What is the true story of Bokura? I'll start with the most clear, concise explanation I can give. Then I'll go into the more speculative theory territory. There are 3 worlds in Bokura: the animal world, the robot world, and the human world. Green sees the animal world, Blue sees the robot world, and everyone else sees the human world. The human world is a facade broadcasted by a radio antenna. The signal projects a fake human world to block the real robot world from being seen. Every human and animal seen in this world are actually robots. The robots are tricked into thinking it's real and that they are humans or animals. The animal world is a malfunction world. It's not the fake human world projection, nor the lack of projection by the antenna. It's an off in-between. The robot world is the real world. Blue encounters an AI who tells him so. It is a cold dystopia where there are little to no humans left. The only true human ever seen is the boy Haru. Haru is depicted as a monster in the human world, but is seen as a human in the robot and animal worlds. This is because the monster depiction is only properly broadcast in the fake human world. All 3 worlds are true in a sense, despite different depictions and elements that exist and don't exist in each. I think it's important to note that the game is not inconsistent, it's incongruent. The world each player experiences is different, as well as parts of the story. There are gameplay elements in one world that seem normal, but in the other make no sense. One player walks across a bridge, but the other sees them walking on air. One player jumps down a hole, but the other sees them sink through the floor. These things are all real, but make no sense as they conflict with each other. We have to think of the story in the same way. The boys faint when they come across the dead deer, a sight they've never seen before. It's a lot to handle, so as a trauma response, they disassociate, and this is why they see different worlds. Their dissociations are a way for them to cope with the sight of death, one trying to keep things light and cheerful, while the other gets more cold and stilted. But in reality, they're robots, and seeing the different worlds is a malfunction of the antenna. Again, both of these are completely true, but are incongruent. They can't exist together, but do. The whole point is to say that both of their worldviews and experiences are valid. It doesn't matter if the robot world is the true world. Both worlds are real. Both boys really experienced what they did, even if they saw the world differently. They still went on the same journey together in the same place. One of the core tenets of the game is perspective. Perspective is literally so important in this game that you have to play it twice and then some as both characters to get the true ending. How we see the world impacts how we interact with the world, who we have in our lives, the experiences we go through, the choices we make. It's likely that the alternate world perspectives work like mental projections. What they experienced in life had an effect on their worldviews, and their feelings manifested into a physical, visual representation of the world, meaning the world changed to match how they felt about it. Each is a projection of their own perspective on the world, based on each's own life experience. So why does Blue see the robot world and Green see the animal world? Well, let's take a look at each's life. Blue's mom is a single mother who runs a bar by herself. Not having much money, Blue wouldn't even get Christmas gifts. She's promiscuous, often dressing provocatively and switching boyfriends. She spent more time with them than her own son, to the point where she'd leave him alone at a park with strangers, probably to go sleep with her boyfriend. It's likely that Blue was an unplanned pregnancy, and he has no father figure in his life. They're probably living in the poorer parts of town, which usually means more rundown apartments and lots of stuff being broken. Blue likely had to deal with problems alone and grow up at a younger age, having no father figure and an absent mother. His family, not having much money, means he'd have to face harsher realities. Blue's life is more depressing and real, hence him seeing the real world, the robot world. It makes sense why he sees the dystopia that is the robot world and why he's more pessimistic. Blue lives in a poor area. It's likely exposed to things that he shouldn't see as a child, but got used to them, which could explain why the robot dystopia doesn't faze him too much. Blue sees the world as robotic and mechanical because he's detaching himself from his emotions and thinking through things logically. It also makes all of the deaths and game mechanics relatively less emotional, because they're all robots. Blue sees the world in equilibrium. Everything is monotone, and all of the darker elements are mellowed out. Green came from a more affluent family, but equally as neglectful. His parents tended to fight, and when they did, neither wanted the blame, so the responsibility was always put on Green. He says he always tried really hard in life and in school just to get his father to notice him, but he never did. Not much is known about Green's mother, but his father is the mayor of the town, so it's likely he was always busy. Green feels unwanted at home. The replacement for affection likely came in the form of children's playthings like plushies, games, toys, kids' shows, and picture books. He had a more sheltered home life. Green still got to live like a kid. That's why he is naive and optimistic. He takes things a bit better and can see the positives. He still sees the world like a kid, hence the animal world, but not everything is right in his life, hence the twisted nature of said animal world. For Green, everything bad they see maybe looks worse for him, since he was never exposed to anything. That could explain the animal body horror. It could explain why he gets scared easily, too. Green is bright and cheerful to make up for his pain. He is more emotional, which is why all of the death scenes and the scenes with the dogs are so grotesque. Green sees all the world on opposite ends of the spectrum, happy and cute, and bloody and grotesque. So, aside from seeing the different worlds, how does all of this manifest in-game? I'll give a few examples. Green doesn't want to get involved in the parents' drama, is worried about bringing the hunter and dog back to life. He's a child and still acts like it and sees the world that way more than Blue does. Blue, contrarily, sees the robot world, which is how they as adults see the world. Not to say that all adults in this life have dull lives and see the robot world. Clearly not. Neither the parents nor the hunter do. Blue stands there for a moment after the mother finishes talking to him, almost stunned by what she said. She notably mentioned getting divorced, which is what Blue yelled at them not to do afterwards, so that could be it. Blue also seems surprised to be called kind by the mother. Maybe he was put down by, or at least never received, any compliments from his own mother. Green says the dog didn't deserve to die for just following the hunter's orders. Blue is not so sure. He worries about the hunter never finding the dog if they bury it. Green asks why they should care about the hunter. They both instinctively direct their empathy to different parties. Green sees the animal world, so he empathizes with the dog. He also talks to a rabbit later. Blue sees the robot world, and he later learns the truth about it and the hunter too. Green was also worried about the dog coming back to life and attacking them. Blue didn't even consider that because for him it was a robot that never tried to attack him. Even though neither of the boys had witnessed death before seeing the dead deer, Blue had instinctively been able to recognize it was dead. He's able to do this with everyone, the deer, the rabbit, the parents, and so on. After their first interaction with the hunter, Blue says, "That guy was definitely trying to kill us," to which Green replies, "I think his dog was too." Blue is sure, but Green isn't entirely. The dog was actually just an AI following orders, though this is not known yet. The old man, however, went nuts and has been killing living beings. But there's that certainty again of death from Blue, but uncertainty from Green. When something is not actually dead, Blue is able to identify it as just broken, in pieces. Blue wants to bring the old man back to life because he feels bad for him. Green doesn't want him to after all of those he's killed. Blue isn't even sure he recognizes the hunter in the robot world and again has to confirm with Green. He has to do this for most characters, like the parents too. Both boys have a separate conversation when they get to the hunter's house. Blue talks to the AI inside about the absolutely gruesome story of the hunter's family and life. Green talks to a rabbit outside about how the animals view the hunter killing everyone. Green's is again much more childlike. There's a talking rabbit who warns of a boogeyman. Blue's is much more grounded and tragic. It has a sad and gritty truth to it. The boys are only able to experience these interactions because perspectives allow them to see the worlds the way they do. The rabbit feels like Green would be able to understand him if he spoke. Green thinks it's because he looks like a duck, but the rabbit does not see him that way. This is probably because Green is currently seeing the world in this pseudo-animal in-between perspective. They're all robots, yet none of them know that, but they probably all would be able to communicate if they were aware that they were. This is a unique circumstance. Something similar happens with Blue when he talks to the AI, who is surprised he can see and hear him. They're able to talk because they can both see the world for how it truly is, a robot world, which is the only world that the AI exists in. Blue identifies that something is weird when they see Haru. Instinctively, he knows Haru's a human in a robot world, but it's like subconsciously so. Green perhaps doesn't because he's a child living in a child's vision of the world, so it makes sense to see another child there. Blue feels it's important to get the parents back together. He says moms and dads shouldn't fight. But Green says, that's what moms and dads always do, right? That is the only home life that Green knows, so he thinks it's normal. But Blue knows what it's like not having a dad, and knows that having both parents is important. Green can relate to the dad they meet because the dad tended to run off and make his parents angry. Green literally has run off to blow up his father's statue to make him angry and make him notice him. Blue can relate to the mother because it seems she too was a single mom who had an unplanned pregnancy, and she relates him to her own son. The visuals, sound effects, music, gameplay elements are all different in each perspective. The elements and objects existing in one boy's world and not the other is to represent the different set of obstacles we all have to go through in the same life. The music for Green is more upbeat, while for Blue is melancholic. The song that plays when the fireworks go off is the same for both boys. The reason for the song being the same is because now they are both seeing the same human world again. Everything that has an alternate world version for Green also does so for Blue. Certain items in the world don't, like clothes, the hunter's crossbow, Pokémon, the fireworks. This means these items aren't accounted for in the alternate world broadcasts. The reason being is it's unnecessary, as there's nothing to hide about them, unlike Haru, who is depicted as a monster in the human world, but normal in the other worlds. Interestingly, it looks like the corpses killed by the hunter have blood in both the animal and robot worlds. Also interesting, the old man's house/barn is one of the only real-looking things in the robot world. It actually looks like a real building. To Green, it looks colorful and food-inspired. I don't think this is anything too remarkable, though. It doesn't surprise me that the remnants of humanity are still being used. Then again, even the train looks robotic, and that's also a human thing. The boys say, But there were switches on the ground, and those weird UFO things. That doesn't seem very real. That's because they are real in the robot world, but don't make any sense in the other worlds. The forest hides a factory, for one, so it makes sense that the devices and switches are around the place. That also includes the floating devices that Green sees as UFOs. Alien UFOs in our real life would have been suggested to cover up for government aircrafts, per se. It makes sense that this concept would be applied in the same way, to hide and explain robot world elements. What about Haru's background and the way he sees the world? It is likely that he sees the real world, the robot world. Haru knows that people or animals are scared of him, but he doesn't know why, which suggests that he doesn't see himself visually as a monster. If he doesn't see his monster form, then that means the antenna isn't projecting the human world for him. It is possible that he sees the animal world because in that world he is still depicted as a human, but that world is a malfunctioning world, which means the radio antenna would have to be malfunctioning when broadcasting the human world to him. Now, we could argue that the radio antenna was designed for robots, not humans, so it makes sense it would be malfunctioning when broadcasting to him. But why let it broadcast a malfunction world to humans? If the goal of the radio antenna is to trick robots into thinking they're humans in a human world, and they broadcast actual humans as monsters, then what would be the goal in broadcasting anything to a human? I suppose if you wanted to broadcast to humans, to make them see all the robots as monsters to scare them away, then that could make sense. But nothing like that is suggested in the game. The monster depiction is to make people afraid, and to either attack or avoid humans. The same goes for the unintelligible inhuman screams. Also important to note, Haru has never actually eaten anyone. That was just him hugging people being depicted as him eating them by the antenna. The antenna broadcasts Haru to be seen as a monster. Could this depiction be a projection about how Haru feels about himself? Haru is surprised at the suggestion that his parents were still looking for him. Maybe he thought they would have been happy to get rid of him, that he was the source of their problems. We also don't know when people started seeing Haru as a monster, so maybe it could have been after Haru felt this way and ran off. Now he's seen by others as he feels about himself. Maybe this is why Haru says he can't see his parents again. And let me clarify, the parents that the boys meet in the woods are not Haru's parents. At first it seems like it. Their son has been missing for 3 years. Haru is a boy who has been gone for what could be years, given his long hair and lack of social interaction. And the parents seem to argue just like Haru mentions his parents did. Haru mentions his mom thought about him before anything else, and sometimes it was a pain. He says he always felt safe around his dad. Maybe this made mom a little jealous. The parents the boys meet seem similar to this. But that's all done on purpose. The parents are characterized in such a way that they could be representative of any child's parents. Green, Blue, and Haru all identify things in them that are familiar to their own parents. The boys are the same. They are characterized in such a way that they could be representative of anyone's children. The parents each find similar elements in the boys that remind them of themselves or their child. But more specifically, why couldn't they be Haru's parents? There's a few things to note. In the ending scene atop the mountain, the parent doesn't react when Blue says Haru's name, implying that that is not their son's name. They were arguably disoriented, but I don't think that's the case, as they were lucid enough to make full statements and ask and answer questions. If their son was Haru, then I'm sure this would have been followed up on later, especially by the police making a report. If Haru was the name of the missing child, then it would be something for them to look into and later search for him in the forest, but nothing like this is remotely mentioned in the epilogue train scene. Haru is also not sure if the parent he saw was his or not. He was just generally concerned for their well-being in the same way he was for the boys. Also, the mother said that her son ran away, but Haru doesn't explicitly confirm this is what happened with him. And probably most interesting, when asked about his parents at the campfire, he only seems to vaguely remember a little bit about them, and it's only character traits, not physical traits. This suggests that they don't have distinct features, or at least that Haru cannot distinguish them. But why is this important? The animals in the animal world look different from each other. The dogs are colored differently, white, brown, and gray. The humans are different animals. Green is a duck, blue is a bear, the dad is a lion, the mom is a sheep, and the grandpa is a deer. But in the robot world, Blue states that all of the robots look the same to him. That is, he can't tell the difference between one dog and the next, or one person and the other. And there's a section that shows us the robots are actually mass-produced. In a world full of robots, it is likely that Haru was adopted and raised by robot parents. How can that be when all robots see him as a monster? The boys only see Haru's human form because they are not seeing the fake human world broadcast. However, they do see human Haru atop the mountain when Haru is switching back and forth between his monster form, aka when the antenna is malfunctioning. And again, when they visit him again as adults, they see him for who he really is. Haru in the ending is shown as a larger, more grotesque monster than he was before. This is to show that he has aged, but when Blue and Green see the real him, he's still the same sad, crying child inside. Haru's adoptive robot parents could have also seen him for who he really was. Just him, though, not necessarily that they saw the robot world, but they could have. This would make a lot of sense and answer some important details about Haru's background. It answers why he has no friends and doesn't know what Pokemon is. He was probably kept pretty isolated from the world, as in Japanese culture, illegitimate children are shunned. This is something he has in common with Blue. Yet his story still mirrors the boys and the mother's son. The parents are fighting, the child is neglected, and the child eventually runs away. Potentially a lot of their arguing got put on him, just like with Green and his parents. The way Green and Blue talk to Haru at the campfire about him running away is criticizing him. Why would you do that and worry your parents? If you hadn't run away, this never would have... They're saying it's all his fault. This brings Haru to tears. It helps the theory of his parents always blaming and putting things on him, similar to Green's parents. Green and Blue were forced between the parents they met in the woods to make a choice. After the confrontation, the boys say that was scary and they don't really want to go home now. Maybe Haru felt the same. He can't bear to get back into that painful situation again. Though he was curious to hear that his parents were still looking for him, so maybe he sort of wanted to test to see if they really cared about him, but that's speculation. I think him being adopted adds up. The lion's stepdad essentially adopted the mother's son as his own. Who's to say it couldn't happen with robots and a human? Though the exact circumstances are unknown. Also, if the parents saw Haru for who he really was when they raised him, then it wouldn't make sense for them to see him as a monster later. The parent atop the mountain obviously did not see Haru for who he really was, so that's another reason why the parents they meet are not Haru's. We could speculate that he was isolated to keep him hidden because he was a monster. Maybe Haru's adoptive parents had a lot of struggles knowing that, and their fighting stemmed from it, and that's why he eventually ran away. He's still a child, so maybe he didn't understand the concept of being a human in a robot world, but still knew that he was causing his parents' problem. And the same lack of awareness explains why he takes refuge in the woods away from civilization. We can't know for sure. Haru's background is deliberately left vague. He's any kid, and you're supposed to interpret him or even project yourself onto him. The whole point is that everyone has a different perspective, but everyone's worldview is valid. Blue says this line when talking to the mother. Even if you're not related by blood, it doesn't mean you can't be family, right? This could allude to the idea of Haru being adopted by robot parents. But the line is also interesting because despite Blue and Green being blood-related, they've never been part of a family together. And ironically, they seem more like family together than either do with their own parents. Green never gets to fully tell Blue that they're brothers and that the mayor is both their dad. But does Blue ever learn the truth? On the ending train ride, both boys call their respective parent. Blue calls his mom, the bartender in town, and Green calls his dad, the town mayor. They're each calling to get in touch with the other. Blue's mom is worried that Blue's going to say something to the mayor. Green's dad, the mayor, is worried Green's going to say something to the mom, the bartender. This implies that neither Green nor his dad, the mayor, have told Blue the truth, but that Blue already knows the truth but hasn't connected with his dad, the mayor. Why was this hidden from Blue for so long? His mom didn't tell him, and Green wasn't supposed to tell him, it seems. The whole town avoided him. It doesn't seem like much of a scandal if everybody already knows, and plus both were promiscuous adults anyway. In Japanese culture, it seems bastard children are shunned, so maybe that's why he was avoided and never told. I guess the mom and the mayor wanted to hide the fact for reasons of repercussions. The mom already paid more attention to her boyfriends, but maybe she intentionally neglected her son because of this. Green also says his father neglected him, perhaps because he had a son with Blue's mom, so he didn't feel Green was his real son. He was always going to her bar, so he clearly loved her. As adults, they never seem to discuss the possibility of them being brothers when they meet. They do have a lot in common, though. Neglectful parents at home, the same boring adult life, Takemon. Especially as adults, both of their lives contain parallels. In the opening scene on the train, the boys mention that winter was the last time their life had any meaning when all of this happened. Literally, as robots, their lives don't have meaning. The AI even says, the world isn't worth anything anyway. But we can look also at their humanity, their depression as they get older and lose their childhood innocence in an adulthood of monotony. They are just cogs in a machine, going through the motion, shuffling day by day, and for what? What's the point of it all? In the ending scene on the train, the boys' world momentarily flashed to show the robot world. This is how they both see the world as adults, for what it truly is, empty and lifeless. They just keep going through the motions. There's a negativity towards adults and adulthood as early as the opening park bench scene of the game, when they are complaining about their family home lives and the statue. The boy says, "Feels like it's always looking down on us. I hate it. I'd rather hang myself than grow up into a stupid adult like that." Both moments that the boy said gave them meaning in their life, the campfire and the fireworks, were when they shut out the rest of the world. In the cave, it was just the three of them, expressing their true selves, and the rest of the world was out of sight because it was all in the dark. Atop the mountain, it was just the two of them, and they couldn't even see the rest of the world because it was all blocked out by clouds. I think this is to suggest that living in the moment is important, and not getting bogged down by the outside world is too. The boys say a few things in the prologue train ride that coincide with this. When he's talking about the book, Night on the Galactic Railroad, maybe I'll read it again, but I probably won't. If I really wanted to read the book again, I could do it. Instead, I just passively consume content just interesting enough to make me forget my dull life. I think there's also a theme of self-hate in the game. No one knows how to self-love. The mom they meet seems to admit so. The dad they meet says he was an awful kid. The boys feel neglected at home. The boys say to each other that their own lives aren't valuable. They do care for each other, but value each other's lives over their own. Maybe when we don't care about ourselves, we let our lives get bad. Throughout the game, the robot world is the one that Blue sees. After they set off the fireworks and have a good laugh, both of their worlds revert back to the human world. Blue tells Green that he's over the thing with his dad, and he doesn't want to run away anymore. Instead, he's going to change, because no matter where he is, if he doesn't change, the world won't either. Green tells Blue he's really grown up, but Blue doesn't think he has. This is because, in this moment, Blue found purpose in life and renewed happiness, something he has lost as an adult. Maybe Green not wanting to be left behind is kind of what made him grow up. He felt like he had to grow up too, but becoming adults kind of ruined their worlds. When someone's perspective shifts enough, so does the way they view the world. So laughter and happiness quite literally did make things go back to normal. Blue finds Green's simple childhood logic hard to believe, that happiness made everything go back to normal. When we're unhappy, we see the world differently. Sometimes it really is that simple. The boys already had negativity in their lives. Then the deer pushed them too far, so they didn't have enough happiness, and the antenna malfunctioned. Each character has personal growth. Green wanted to act out to get his father's attention by blowing up the statue of him, but he was happy about the fireworks and journey with Blue, and said that blowing up the statue was a silly idea anyway and wouldn't change him hating his dad. Blue no longer wanted to escape from home, nor chase the fairy tale of the Pokemon Park Man being his real dad, and instead he would face his reality. It seems the experience in the woods had a profound effect on him, as it made him want to change as a person and do more meaningful things, like changing the town. Both boys set out on a quest, and neither achieved the thing they wanted to do, but both were content after the journey they went on. There are characters who express the only reason they keep going is because of other people they have in their lives. The rabbit's little brother, the old man's wife and daughter, the mother's son, even Haru's one-day friendship with the boys, and the boys' memory of that winter together with Haru. The AI says the old man survived something that would have driven most people mad. It's about time he went around the bend and got his happiness back. His family was his world, so when he lost them, he lost his happiness and his world changed. Though his purpose is to bring back his wife and daughter, he still has their remains and his dog to keep him going. We know that the boys lost each other's friendship and their past selves, thus the happiness in their lives, and the result is a dull adult life without purpose. But the memory of their time together and with their friend Haru has become a light for them to continue on with hope for some. It's unknown exactly what age the boys are as adults, but adulthood in Japan starts at 18. The game's story takes place when they were 10, and Haru was likely around the same age. Maybe their adult lives are supposed to be generally representative, too, of any adult's life. People forget what it means to be a kid, to be happy, and they lose people important to them, so they lose purpose to go on in life. The rabbit says all of his friends were killed by the hunter, but not his brother. Protecting him is the only thing keeping him going. Sometimes you just have to keep going for what is important, the rabbit says. If the rabbit can keep going without his friends, then is it family that is important only? Blue and Green are actually brothers, but Blue doesn't know that about Green at the time. The hunter went mad eventually after he lost his family. He kept going for a while. He had other people in his life, but they weren't family. The hunter commits suicide after being locked up with nothing left to lose. Haru still has parents, even if he hasn't seen them in who knows how long, but he mentioned the memory of the boys' friendship would keep him going. And the boys mentioned their experience with the campfire and fireworks together, and with Haru has kept them going as adults, though they still have their respective parents. I think the theme here is togetherness. It's friends staying friends, families not splitting apart, kids not running away, and parents not getting divorced. When we stop caring about one another, we drive each other away and drift apart. Without family or friends, we're left alone in a meaningless world. Do the boys still resent their parents as adults? They talk to their parents on the phone in the epilogue like they're familiar. Maybe them accepting their parents was part of growing up. Maybe they had no choice. It's not necessarily their parents' fault, it was the hand they were dealt. Maybe Green's dad wasn't neglecting him as much as he didn't feel he needed much attention or supervision, as Green excelled in school, as well as him being busy as the mayor. Maybe Blue's mom wasn't neglecting him as much as she was a single mom running a bar, and who never experienced proper love, so she didn't know how to give it, and couldn't find it herself with the various boyfriends. Parenting isn't easy. Green asks the dad, "You don't hate your son?" He replies, "I love him. I can't bear to find out he's not okay." Parents never stop loving their children. I was curious about the different animals depicted in Bokura, so I looked up their meanings in Japanese culture to see if there was any other connections to be made. Bear could refer to the brown bear mountain god, Kumun Kamui. Blue is one of the people who is able to see the world for what it really is. That's kind of godlike, and they are traveling up a mountain. Duck, known for forming strong pair bonds and staying together for life, happiness and fidelity. Green cares greatly for Blue and doesn't want him to leave him behind. He is the more optimistic of the two. Lion, protector. The dad is protective of the wife, which is why he goes with her and doesn't want to leave her alone in the woods. Sheep, goodness, being part of the herd, a caring mother for her child and family. Rabbit, it serves as an example of the importance of selflessness and sacrifice. The rabbit expressed wanting to protect his brother, stayed to talk to and help Green, and ends up getting killed when he stayed to warn him. Deer, they symbolize death and rebirth. The boys faint at the sight of the dead deer and reawaken with new worldviews. The hunter was a white deer, which could be referring to the legend of Hakushika, which is regarded as a sign of longevity. The hunter is an old man who has survived through a lot and for a long time. Monster. Is the Haru Cronenberg monster something in particular in Japan? Like, does it mean anything? Or is it from anything? Why is it always crying? Could it symbolize that Haru is a sad child? Or does the monster not have eyelids to blink? Is it crying when it's bigger when they go back to it as adults? Is it like that saying, a monster only a mother could love? I didn't find anything concrete for a monster in Japanese culture. Colors may also mean something in this game. Blue in Japan represents purity, dignity, calmness, stability, security, and fidelity. Green represents fertility, growth, youth, eternity, vitality, and energy. And they use the color on Greenery Day. Now, what role Haru played from a narrative point of view is definitely that of an arbiter of each boy's perspective, at first making the differences extreme, and thus enabling them to learn to see things more from each other's perspective, by talking and working together instead of assuming they'd agree. As for the grandpa and AI dog, their allegorical role is clearly to make the boys and the players think. Blue needs to learn that not everything can be fixed, and even some things that can be fixed can end badly. Green can learn that people do bad things, but out of good intentions. Overall, it's a lesson, but a question on morality where there isn't a clear answer. But you're encouraged to think and ponder a question instead of getting an easy or hard truth. That lines up with Buddhist thinking. Followers of Buddhism make up 69.8% of the population of Japan, so perhaps the developer was a Buddhist. Choices in the game also don't have a right answer. It's up to the player to decide what they think is right. But even so, every choice has a consequence. No matter which parent you choose, it still hurts their relationship. Choose one parent and the other dies. Feel bad for the old man? Save him and doom him to being locked up until he commits suicide. Think he's a murderer? Don't save a life. Leave him dead and the dog/AI sad. The boys even criticize Haru at the campfire for the choice he made to run away. The boys reflect on their choice to enact this journey after the fireworks atop the mountain. I stopped thinking about what I should have done a long time ago. But you have to learn to live with your choices. They took you where you are and made you who you are. The glitching effect in the game is the antenna malfunctioning. It is present during any moment where there is a difference of perspectives. We see it when the boys faint and switch to different worlds in the beginning. We see it when Haru is atop the cliff where the old man died, and when he's atop the mountain switching between monster and human form. We see it when the two boys, aka the players, are forced to agree and make a choice about the parents and old man. Though there is no glitch effect with the final choice, as the boys do see the world, themselves, and each other in the same way at that time. The glitching effect also happens when the boys are prompted to make a choice together. Perhaps this is supposed to again indicate the multiple perspectives involved in making said choice. There is no glitching effect, though, when the boys agree who stays behind and who goes. This is because their perspectives on life are currently the same, not just in seeing the human world, but they are happy. Most interestingly, the glitching effect is present whenever the hunter is present. This implies that the hunter also sees a different world. That makes sense because seeing his family dead must have been traumatic for him, just like the boys with the deer. And oftentimes killers have a warped view of the world, the senile elderly too. But then what world does he see? The AI says the hunter pushed himself too far after a while and went senile, but that he doesn't see the robot world. If he did, then they probably would have had a conversation about it. The real question is, what gave him the idea to start killing other living things to use their parts to fix his family? The hunter has always killed animals, but never a human. Him seeing the animal world could answer why he killed the parent. He thought they were an animal. The AI said he tried to lead a good life after the tragedy, similar to Green trying to stay positive, but his world is a little twisted. But that still doesn't answer the main question. We see a parts production line underground as Blue is in the robot world. The heads and bodies on the conveyor section imply that kids, like the characters you play, are just mass-produced. This is why the beheading, stitching, and cloning makes sense, because they're robot parts being connected and disconnected, despite them looking like severed animals to Green. But the hunter would not have been able to access this. Maybe if the hunter had witnessed someone putting a body back together, but only people who see the robot world can do this. Haru sees the robot world, but as a human, he wouldn't have the robotic instincts or image in his head like Blue does to fix other robots. Interestingly, Green is able to attach and detach Blue's head to the dog body. Normally, he sees it as dead, but likely because he saw Blue fix it twice, the dog and the old man, Green learned how to do it, even without the image in his head like Blue because of the robot world. This means robots who witness it being done, even in an alternate world, could still do it, so likely also the human world. Also, the AI seems surprised that Blue fixed the dog, so it's probably incredibly rare for that to happen there. It's most likely that the hunter sees his own world, and that something he saw there made him think he could fix his family by killing other beings and taking their parts. Again, we don't know, but we're not supposed to. That's the point. We can't see the world through any perspective but our own, and we all may view the world differently. I suppose the antenna glitching could also be connected to death, per se, but every time there is a death and the effect is present, someone with a differing perspective is also present. There's no glitching effect when the boys see the dead dog or hunter because they're not actually dead. Blue says to him it just looks like they're in pieces and that he can fix them. There is a glitching effect when one of the boys dies during gameplay, but I think it's safe to assume that this is just for gameplay purposes. Even if it was connected to death as well, it really wouldn't change anything. Death anyway could be chalked up to a robot's perspective going offline. Why are some things repairable and others not? The old man and the dog broke when falling off the cliff. Their deaths were accidental and repairable, but none of the killings were. Ergo, the parent and the rabbit. The deer wasn't either, but we don't know how it died. Blue says they just look dead to him, thus he is unable to fix them. He does mention that the arrow hit a vital part in the rabbit, so maybe as long as something dies in a non-critical way, then they can be saved. It's not necessarily about accidental death or deliberate. Also, players can die in the game, though the section resets when this happens. So it is not meant to be canonical, it's just for gameplay purposes. And that's pretty much my explanation. Much of this was speculation, but from reasonable deductions. A lot of analysis went into the making of this video. It's a trope of Japanese storytelling to leave things open to interpretation, but also this was by a sole indie developer who probably didn't think everything out. So there's bound to be some gaps and some things that are left vague on purpose. It's likely a combination of elements being left open to interpretation as well as not being entirely thought out. The problem is the game melds the literal and figurative to an indistinguishable level that it can be hard to tell what the metaphors are and mean. I do have some additional thoughts and theories I would like to share, though. Some other things that came to mind. Did Haru throw away his handkerchief? I don't think so, based on how he said he would treasure the memory of their friendship. I think because Blue gave it to Haru in his time of need, Haru did the same for the fainted parent. We don't know the full story with Haru. Is he the last surviving human? We don't see any other humans, but we're also isolated to just the woods. Though it makes sense why he fled to the woods, people saw him as a monster. Though it would make sense then if the other humans fled there, but we see none. This could be that there are so few humans left. Imagine how lonely that is, to be the last surviving human, having everyone be afraid of you. And even when Haru does get to hug, he's hugging cold, metal machines. Why did Haru leave the boys to go find the parent on his own? Maybe he was still skeptical of them being scared of him. Maybe it's his poor social skills after so long in isolation. Maybe he didn't want to wake them up, nor wait for them to. We never get to see the hunter in the human world. The AI never made mention of Haru in either form. We don't know if the hunter ever saw Haru and what he looked like to him. We also didn't get to see what the hunter's house and family looked like outside of the robot world. And a line I really liked from the game that I can personally relate to on a daily basis. I don't remember anything about it, just that it was sad. The details aren't as important. It's how it made us feel that matters and sticks with us. The same developer has made other games that, according to commenters, have similar premises, like Worlds of Robots, Robots Farming Humans, Last Human on Earth, etc. Apparently, Bokura is a sort of sequel to their other game, Fallen Planet. That's their only other game on Steam, the rest were on mobile stores. Bokura translates to we from Japanese. Bokura can mean us depending on the context. Bokura is getting a sequel called Bokura Planet, which means we on another planet. It could also mean together. The sequel seems to be in gameplay and presentation only, however, as the plot and premise are set in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi future and has nothing to do with the original story, it seems. Though this script was written before the game released. So it's yet to be seen if it has anything story-wise to do with the original. In a 2024 interview, the developer was surprised and happy to report over 600,000 copies were sold. Bokura is a magical, melancholic game. It is a unique experience with few contemporaries. The kids feel true to life, and the story is heartfelt and genuine. I don't know if I'd say this game had a profound effect on me like some others have. It's not Spec Ops The Line or Mother 3. It's a weird feeling of interest or fascination. But it made me sad enough to cry, hug my family, and make a video on it. Some parts I found to be very warm and others depressing, at least the story and presentation. The gameplay was something else, though it does tie into the story. Overall, I had a lot of fun playing it. The developer in the store page mentions how you could or should play the game. My wife and I played it in the same room on separate PCs, sometimes looking at each other's screens. There's a lot of basic symbols in the game, especially on the menu, I think for that exact reason of simple, basic communication. There were moments when there was a no mic symbol, which I assume was meant for online play. We didn't see each other's screens or talk during these scenes, but we had to make choices after. So I wasn't sure if we were supposed to discuss what we saw or not after, or just not during. Then there were some segments where you were intended to communicate verbally, so we made an effort not to share screens. In the end, though, we got mostly everything from one another, so there wasn't a reason to replay it. The developer did update the game over time with additional endings, though, and there's also achievements. We looked the rest up online, other people's thoughts, and discussed our own theories first, throughout playing. I tried looking up theory and explanation videos, but there were none, so that's actually why I made my own. I ended up writing like 50 pages worth of material before I narrowed it down to what I have now, which is about 34. I wanted to make a definitive explanation video along with theories and my opinions. I have some feedback from my wife as well. My wife's feedback. Also, the game is fun. You get to play with a friend or partner, the mechanics are very original, the puzzles are intuitive but not too easy, and I feel that although the story can have different interpretations, it is quite concise. I would say that there are elements that can be polished or explained better, like about Haru because he is a monster. I said that the game reminds me of Mother 3, and it probably has Nintendo inspirations considering it references Pokemon, and one of the main songs you hear throughout reminds me of, I think it's the Song of Healing from Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. And as a joke, you could reference how the name of the game sounds like Marth taunting, or his victory quote in Smash Bros. Melee, maybe Brawl, Bokura, Bokura makanai. Timeline-wise, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire came out on November 21st, 2002, but was announced March 7th, 2001. This means that Bokura takes place on November 21st, 2002 or later. Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue had been out for 2 years. I spent a good amount of time trying to cross-reference child language speaking proficiency levels and the real-life release dates of Pokemon to try to figure out the boys' ages, because I forgot they said they were 10 at the end on the train. But on the bright side, that research with Pokemon actually helped me to theorize, so it wasn't a total waste. It really helped me to understand everything by repeatedly reviewing footage of the game, especially the cutscenes. Originally, I thought the dialogue was too on the nose, but now I believe absolutely everything in this game was chosen deliberately. Every time I look at this game again and my notes, I kept coming to realizations and coming up with new ideas and interpretations. Bokura frequently mentions a parody of Pokemon called Pokémon. I think the game could have gotten by with mentioning Pokemon, though. A book can say a kid dressed up as Spider-Man. It just can't have Spider-Man as a character in the book, or be using all of his lines in stories. Maybe it's because it was made in Japan and laws are different, or just to be safe. Other copyrighted works are mentioned in the game, like Kenji Miyazawa's Night on the Galactic Railroad, so I don't see the problem. The book mentioned, Night on the Galactic Railroad, is actually a 20th century Japanese novel where the protagonist is taken on an adventure into a galactic world on a train after having a rough day with his friend who he became distant with. Sound familiar? I'm suddenly reminded of that one South Park episode where Stan's parents are fighting and getting a divorce. Stan starts to see everything like crap. He meets a parody group of the Matrix who help him see the real world. Stan starts drinking alcohol, then the world isn't so bad anymore. Some people get high or intoxicated just to get through day-to-day life in our real world. Suddenly, Bokura is making me think of my Machinima series, Super Smash Bullies. It is also about two boys that become friends and later learn that they're brothers. They go on adventures, there's heavy adult themes, and I was even told Smash Bullies felt like Mother 3. Bokura's two-player experience reminded me of the LEGO Star Wars prequel games. There's not too many co-op exclusive games that come to mind. Maybe Bread and Fred recently, and It Takes Two. I think Bokura's concept of seeing the same thing, but different, is quite unique, though. Sometimes it can be frustrating, having to reset because you kept screwing up a puzzle. It feels a little bit stiff, which led to some unnecessary deaths and annoying moments. Some comments I found amusing were, "Heck, I always felt like I'm living in a different world compared to other people, because I see things in a different way than others," and "I find it funny how blue gets the mechanical wonder while green gets the organic trauma." I did have some other theories that while I don't believe them, I thought it would be fun to entertain them. I have a whole document containing the script and these other theories, so I'll link that in the description for anyone who wants to read. And that is the definitive explanation and theories of Bokura. For anyone who has played the game, I hope you enjoyed my video. For anyone who hasn't, it's still a great game, even though I spoiled all of the story for you. I'm looking forward to the sequel and playing the developer's previous games. I encourage you all to check them out, get others' opinions, and discuss your own theories and reactions in the comments. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out my other video essays. I will be making more in the future, so stay tuned to the Bonehead Clan. Thank you, and goodbye.